Well, y'all, they've launched the assault, the answer, the response to probably one of the best speeches ever from Marco Rubio as the Secretary of State yesterday. They sent AOC out onto the field of ideological battle, and it went a certain way. I'm going to show you the big response from the left to Marco Rubio basically saying wokeness is dead, mass migration is dead, all this BS guilt that you've put upon us is now dead. And then AOC's magical response. Guys, you're going to enjoy every second of this. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. We are dispelling propaganda, and we are fighting the ideological battle every single day, dispelling that propaganda. And I'd love to have you join us in the ranks because we have got a country to save, and that's what we're about. All right, you can follow me on X at Braden LOA. Let me get right into this. I don't want to bury the lead on you tonight because this is a very important video. AOC has now slammed Rubio's pro-West speech and calls for a class-based internationalism instead. Y'all, come here real quick. You have to learn to speak liberal. You have to learn to speak lefty. Because socialists and communists can never come out and say, I'm a proud socialist and I'm a proud communist. They just can't do it because those words hold a whole lot of death associated with them. Death of culture, death of civilization, death of economics, death of 100 million people in the 20th century alone. Look it up. Okay? They can't come out and say it, so they've got to obfuscate their names, their words, and they've got to do these delicate little dancing games all around their true intentions, like things like class-based internationalism. That's international socialism. Come on, we're not this stupid. But anyway, we're going to listen to this response speech from AOC. This is the big paragon on the left of thought. Listen to what she said in her little response speech, and we're going to pick it apart, and we're going to walk you through what she's really saying. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, the chats, and emojis. Let's get it. Leader of the Democrat Party, class working international.
You are starting to see the ascent of the right, even in places like Munich. Marco Rubio's speech was a pure appeal to Western culture. My favorite part was when...
Yeah, we're in the West. You spent a dedicated energy and dedicated plan to destroy the culture of the West. Hillary Clinton, yesterday, mass migration is a destabilizing event. Yeah, no kidding. It's shocking. AOC, we're looking to return to this Western thought in Western countries? Okay.
And he said that American cowboys came from Spain.
I thought they came from Winnetou, but...
I believe the Mexicans and descendants of African enslaved peoples would like to have a word on that. You know, I think it's also important to note how thin that foundation is. Culture is changing. Culture always changed. Culture for the entire history of human civilization has been a fluid, evolving thing that is a response to the conditions that we live in.
Kind of like gender, kind of like biology, male, female, men can get pregnant, women can get pregnant, everyone can get pregnant. You don't have ovaries, you don't have a uterus, you don't have fallopian tubes, you can get pregnant. You mean that whole gender fluid, that everything's evolving? This is such a crazy world we live in where everything is changing based on cultural need. So we're just going to put that to the side for a second. And now I want to focus on something really important. Because again, I have said multiple times on this channel, and I will consistently say that the biggest fighters and biggest warriors to save our country from the likes of this type of rhetoric is going to come from the 2A space. The Second Amendment advocates, the gun advocates, the people who are defending rights on a daily basis in the gun space are fully versed and vetted in dealing with this type of ambiguous speech. Okay? And here's what I mean by that. Come here real quick. The line of culture is so thin that they're trying to draw a line through. Really? So over 1,000 years of English jurisprudence and English common law that is built together upon a foundation of Roman ideas of actual law and government and governing and all of these different elements going from thousands of years into the European or English historical tradition of a thin line. In fact, it's so thin that our entire jurisprudence and our SCOTUS builds their narratives and builds their decisions off of decisions that come from the 1200s, 12 to 1500 for existing decisions in judicial history in Britain, which then correlate directly into our existing standards and norms, which then reflect directly today in SCOTUS decisions. So yeah, it's so thin. It's 1,000 years of Western civilization building upon itself, which culminated in defense of our rights and liberties across the board. There's lots of this as examples in the 2A space. This is why I say these little arguments and lines that they make, the common thing that they're drawing is so thin. No, it's not. No, it's not at all. It's very rich and diverse and thick and girthy. I said it. But this is the whole thing. Disparage all of Western society for a class-based internationalism. Yeah, that's an international socialism under a one-world government. That's what she's talking about. But anyway, it's so thin. Okay.
And so they want to take this mantle of culture. At the end of the day, though, it is very thin. And so the response that we have to have is, again, it's material, it's class-based, it's common interest. There was certainly more openness to what I was saying than probably there would be in years past. We can't underestimate the appeal of going back to these well-worn grooves. A lot of what we talk about when we talk about a class-based internationalist perspective also means ending the hypocrisy towards the global South.
Wow, there's a whole lot in there. Let's throw some emotional rage baiting for the international South, whatever the hell that means. But anyway, this is the entire point. When you see a liberal or a leftist get on their little talking tangents with zero resistance to anything they're saying, and they get to say whatever the hell they want, even if it makes no sense, has no basis in historical reality or fact, but you can come down and say all of your emotional pleas, it's a very thin history. No, it's not. But, it doesn't matter what is actual reality. It's about the class-based internationalism. Y'all, she's talking about a national socialism. We can't get back into the well-worn grooves of a Western society. Yes, we can, and we are. Enjoy. This is the whole point. They're trying to stymie the idea that we're going back to a Western idea of culture, not a mass influx of immigration, which is then watering down and mixing up the entire culture of the West to where you get all this conflict because you have injected so much. What did Hillary Clinton say? Destabilization in order to get a benefit of a class-based internationalism. This is the whole point. They can't say socialism, they can't say communism, because there's 100 million dead bodies wrapped around both of those terms in the 20th century alone. So they have to go down the road of disparaging the Western culture because it's always in this fluidity and all these different things. Well, so it's fluid in your direction, but it can't be fluid back to to Western norms. See, that's the whole idea. We have thousands of years of history on this. You don't on the other side. What you have on the other side are a bunch of mass migrant influx, woke, useful idiots that bring about your class-based internationalism. See how this works? They can't openly say what they want, but they can describe it. They can't say the words because that's a very easy thing to identify, so they just describe emotional, lofty ideals that make no sense whatsoever. This is her big reaction. This is the big leftist response to Marco Rubio when he delivered this. We do not want our allies to be weak because it makes us weaker. The alliance we want is one not paralyzed by fear of climate change, war, technology. Instead, we want an alliance that boldly races into the future. That is exactly what they can't have. They've got to have the destabilization. They have to have fear of climate change. They have to have fear of war. They have to have fear of technology because they drive everything that they glean of their power from fear. You have to see what this is. This is a historical norm. This is not an anomaly. This is what they do. not Marco Rubio talking about the West needs to rise, talking about AOC in the class-based internationalism. When they can't tell you the words, there's a reason. That's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. Later.